First of all, on behalf of Asma Jahangir Foundation and its partner organization, I express my profound gratitude to all of you, both in the audience and my worthy panelists, for taking out time to attend this August event. In fact, this shows your commitment and attachment to Kashmir issue, an issue which most of you may not help but agree that has a direct bearing on progress, prosperity, rather survival of the state of Pakistan. A very warm welcome to all of you at this important discourse. Before I proceed, let me introduce myself, because most of you may not have my introduction. I am Tariq Nakash. I was born and bred in Muzaffarabad, where more than 2 decades ago I started working as a reporter for a prestigious English language daily of Pakistan. But I don't think that's my proper introduction. Actually, I am a member of a divided Kashmiri family, which are the worst victims of Kashmir conflict. My father was an innocent adolescent when he migrated to Azad Jammu Kashmir in 1956 at the age of 17 years out of his love for Pakistan. Here he lived for another 45 years. All those years I heard him yearning to revisit his birthplace, but in vain. One sad evening, he died and was buried in Muzaffarabad along with his lifelong desire. 12 years before the death of my father, his hopes for a reunion with his loved one across the divide were rekindled when the Kashmiris took up arms. Then the freedom of Kashmir seemed a matter of months, if not weeks. But alas, that did not happen. Because this was perhaps because my father and most of the Kashmiris believed or hoped that the way India had militarily intervened in East Pakistan in 1971 and helped anti-Pakistan guerrillas, it will also take its revenge in the internationally acknowledged disputed territory of Jammu and Kashmir, occupied by India against the will of its inhabitants by supporting them militarily. But that did not happen. Even though there were some times when the writ of Indian government was literally eroded by the freedom fighters in occupied Kashmir. Let me jog your memories. In October 2009, then India's Foreign Minister Natwar Singh had stated at a news conference that as far as internal autonomy of Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, quote unquote, the sky is the limit. 12 years down the line, today, the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir stands divested of whatever little autonomy or special status it enjoyed, thanks to India's villainy and our complacency. India has not only brazenly stripped occupied Jammu and Kashmir status, but it has also intensified terror and savagery in occupied territory. Not only has it muzzled press, the local traditional media, but it has also been booking ordinary people under the draconian laws for use of social media. Extrajudicial killings are the order of the day. Remember, August 5, 2019 was not an overnight decision. BJP had made its intentions about Kashmir special status known much earlier. Question naturally rises as to what we had been doing or what we have been doing. Early this month, Dawn carried an article by a former Pakistani ambassador, Javed Hassan, on its op-ed pages. Let me read out the intro of this article, quote unquote. The effectiveness of a policy must be judged by its results. Looked at from this perspective, our Kashmir policy, which is closely related to our India policy, cannot be considered a success. On November 11, speaking at a conference organized by Kashmiri Global Council, Asad Durrani, a former chief of Pakistan's premier spy agency, reportedly maintained that Pakistan had failed to frame a national strategy on Kashmir and had thus made a series of mistakes. Mr. Durrani called Pakistan's response to India's August 5 move as the most pathetic response. These are just two views by the persons who held positions of authority in Pakistan. There might be more similar voices, but recalling them at this moment would not serve our purpose. If we keep on discussing what Pakistan could not do or did not do, it would amount to be crying over spilled milk. Similarly, a lot has been said to acclaim and glorify and exalt the supreme sacrifices of the Kashmiris. But mere appreciation does not serve the purpose of the Kashmiris either. We need to move forward to translate these sacrifices. We should not wait for the death of the last Kashmiri. Today, I would like our worthy panelists to dilate upon the way forward. How can we rid the Kashmiris of oppression, everyday killings, terror, pellet guns, molestation, and so on and so forth? What steps Pakistan can and should take in this regard without further ado? A change has taken place in our neighborhood. I am referring to Afghanistan. Will it or can it have any positive effect on the Kashmiri struggle? How can we invoke the jurisdiction of international organizations like Security Council, International Court of Justice, or International Criminal Court? With Modi at the helm in India, apparently in many more years to come, how can we make a progress? Recently, in response to Dr. Farooq Abdullah's suggestion to Indian government to talk to Pakistan, Amit Shah, India's Home Minister, ruled it out, saying, I would prefer to talk to youth. With no talks between India and Pakistan in sight, how can we move forward? If the authorities in Pakistan are bereft of any fresh idea, Kashmiris themselves should be given a lead role, and they can come up with a creative plan. We have competent panelists to talk about these issues. As we have been allocated just 1 hour, I would like the speakers to wrap up their talk in 5 to 6 minutes. After the speeches, we will invite questions. Let me, if our system is working properly, let me introduce our first speaker, Syed Iftikhar Gilani. He is an ace journalist with nearly 3 decades of experience in reporting from the South Asia and Middle East. He has headed bureaus of some of India's prominent publications. Currently, he is editor, planning, coordination, and head of the Special Stories Division at the English Department of Turkish Global Wire Anadolu Agency. He has also authored a book, My Days in Prison. This book is about the days in Delhi's infamous Tihar jail, where he spent almost 9 months in 2002 and 3. A recipient of several awards and a visiting fellow and faculty member at various prestigious institutes, Mr. Gilani was very kind enough to share his presentation with our audience through a video link. Mr. Gilani, over to you if you can hear us. Because of some technical problems, let us invite our next speaker, Naila Altaf Kiani.
If you can start, yes.
Gilani sir, I'm inviting the next speaker. In the meanwhile, we'll try to fix it out.
No problem.
Ms. Kiani is a prominent civil and human rights activist based in Azad Jammu Kashmir. She has been regularly writing on occupied Kashmir situation and governance issues in AJK in traditional and social media. She is an anchor at Azad Jammu Kashmir Television, hosting a weekly live program as well as other marathon transmissions on different occasions. He has strong connections across the divide. Over to you, Ms. Gilani.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen and honored hosts, before I proceed, I'd like to share how proud I feel today to be invited by this August Forum Asma Jahangir Foundation, because Asma Jahangir will always be remembered as an icon of civil liberties, women's rights, and human rights. When the devastating earthquake hit Azad Kashmir in 2005, she traveled all the way to Azad Kashmir to help us and to stand by our side. Now, coming back to the topic, Kashmir conflict and bypassing Kashmiris. First of all, I'll humbly request not to mingle Afghanistan and Kashmir together at all, because these are two different issues. Afghanistan is a sovereign country, and its freedom fighters have defeated the world's largest coalition in history with all technology and warfare. Now, the political situation is an internal matter of Afghanistan, but of course, there is a humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. That is the outcome of isolation of the government from the international community, forcing upon it the version of colonial democracy, freezing its assets, capital, and reserves that have created a humanitarian crisis in the war-torn country, and that aspect needs to be addressed. Now, coming to Kashmir, Kashmiris have been bypassed. Kashmiris have been bypassed not only by external actors, but also by their own leaders. They were bypassed when Azad government of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, a representative of entire Jammu Kashmir, was changed into the government of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, depriving it of its representative character. Kashmiris have been bypassed in United Nations as well, when they got the title of Rais Shumari to share only and not the power to agitate themselves, or by Azad government of Jammu and Kashmir. The next dent was made to this limited plebiscite or limited self-determination by Indus Water Treaty. After the UN resolutions were passed, because all resources of the land are right of Kashmiris only, inherently embedded in self-determination, but Pakistan, by signing this treaty, kind of admitted that Indian-held Kashmir and its rivers are legal parts of India. Kashmiris were also bypassed when Sheikh Abdullah traded right to self-determination with inclusion of 35A in the Article 370 of the Indian Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, Kashmir dispute is also complexed by terminologies from liberation to plebiscite, from Dixon Plan, followed by line of control from ceasefire line, to Musharraf formula, to different solutions and resolutions to Kashmir issue, then to Kashmir question, to human rights, and to now of late Kashmir conflict. I'm objecting the word conflict because conflict means clashing arguments, and that makes all the involved parties its owner. It is worth pondering that similes, metaphors, jargons, and terminologies are very important in the path of a struggle, and you will agree to this. But a lot has been said already about what shouldn't have happened, what mistakes we have done in the past. Now let's move on. Let's talk about the way forward. Pakistan needs to do things beyond rhetoric, keeping in view the onslaught of RSS, BJP in illegally Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Recently, the Indian Chief of Army openly calls for lynching of Kashmiris, which is a genocide alert, a brazen genocide alert. These ongoing war crimes against humanity in occupied Kashmir must be pursued under universal jurisdiction of International Criminal Court of War Crimes, tribunals like Nuremberg and latest war crimes by Serbians. After revocation of 35A of the Indian Constitution, India is hell-bent upon eradicating Kashmiris and Kashmiriyat at all. There is no doubt that a vast majority of Kashmiris are
Recording in
Pakistanis by
progress.
heart, and they believe that since it is part of Pakistan, Pakistan must liberate its territory. And if Pakistan wants to do this through UN jurisprudence, then we should understand that as of now, Pakistan is a respondent to the UN on Kashmir case. Advocacy and diplomacy are no more sufficient in the current scenario. Pakistan should act as a petitioner. As a petitioner, Pakistan will be in a position to agitate the matters at least in 3 places. Move resolution in General Assembly for a vote on holding plebiscite. That can be done without taking the case of veto powers discretion. The countries which will abstain from voting in the General Assembly or vote against the resolution will not only get exposed, but if the majority vote for it, then it becomes mandatory for the UN to execute the plebiscite. Pakistan can also file a petition on International Court of Justice on the plebiscite and besides on war crimes. Pakistan as state or any legal forum or Bar Council of Supreme Court of Pakistan can file petition in International Criminal Court about war crimes. I'm sure the war crimes, massacres, and genocide that are happening in occupied Kashmir are unparalleled in history, and we have reduced it to human rights only. These are not merely human rights violations, ladies and gentlemen. These are gross crimes, war crimes. And as I mentioned earlier, terminology matters a lot in a struggle. As far as India and Pakistan relationship is concerned, it should be noted that by abrogation of 35A, it was a unilateral action by India in this disputed region, obviously. Under the Simla Agreement, India was obliged to keep the issue at least bilateral. Henceforth, the Shimla Agreement has become ineffective, and Pakistan should call it null and void immediately. And it should also be noted that Indus Basin Treaty or other such agreements won't be disturbed this way because they are not bilateral and they are under international guarantees. I shall conclude by saying that Government of Azad Kashmir and Government of Pakistan entered the Karachi Agreement on the division of work, how to run the administration, and how to advance the right of self-determination. And Government of Azad Kashmir under Constitution Act 1974 is bound to ensure good governance and to discharge duties under UNCIP resolutions. Now, it is the duty of Government of Azad Kashmir to work on both good governance and to engage Government of Pakistan on the shared duties. The way India has intensified the brutalities and atrocities in occupied Kashmir with institutional killings and land grabbings and everything, we are left with a short reaction time. Government of Pakistan, Government of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and civil societies of both must act fast, or God forbidden, Kashmiris will be completely eradicated. Other than that, Kashmiris across should be taken on board to devise the vibrant national strategy to counter the fascism, to give the dispute a Kashmiri face for liberation and freedom than Indian-Pakistan dispute. We must act now, or else it will be too late. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kiani. Ms. Kiani has referred to Shimla Agreement, and there have been a lot of calls for its abrogation by Pakistan. Among other things, Shimla Agreement says the principles and purposes of the Charter of the United Nations shall govern the relations between the two countries, Pakistan and India. But by and large, the Shimla Agreement has given an impression that it has overshadowed Kashmir issue, and its abrogation by Pakistan, nullification of Pakistan, would bring Kashmir into the limelight. I would like later on to Ms. Zara, our teacher, to shed light on it as well. And if I've asked my technical team, ऑडियो आ रही है? गिलानी साहब, आपकी वीडियो नहीं आ रही है, चला नहीं पा रहे हम यहाँ, तो अगर आपकी स्लाइड चल रही है, आप इसमें कमेंट्री अगर खुद करते जाएं, ऑडियो हम आपको सुन जाएंगे.
I am able to, वीडियो भी शायद आ रहा है मेरा. Can you just check, because I am now able to see this.
अगर हमें देखें ना, हम हाथ से इशारा कर दें. हाँ, कैरी ऑन जी.
Okay, is it okay?
इसको बार बंद जी. कैरी ऑन गिलानी साहब.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I think I have to just take the opportunity to, on this stage, I have a very profound, let me first pay tributes to Asma Jahangir Sahib and Rahman Sahab, leading lights of Pakistan, societies and icons of struggle against injustice. I have very profound memories, both of them. Whenever they were in Delhi, I used to meet them and they used to call me. And most of times, I know that my meetings were not so cordial, because the impression what we had back in Kashmir, that is unlike Indian civil societies, Pakistan civil society is not so much proactive or supports the Kashmir at times. And will go with the impression of the Indian establishment, a view that the Kashmir has to be put on the back burner and move on other issues. I quite am thankful that past 2014 afterwards, there has been a rethinking. And but both these peoples, both these leading lights, they were so accommodative. They would always interact whenever they were in Delhi. And I once traveled in 2006 with both of them to Srinagar. I think it was the first visit of Mr. Rahman Sahab and Jahangir Sahab to Srinagar at that time to participate in one of the international conferences on federalism. So we had may Allah bless their souls. I take this opportunity. Now I start my presentation. I'm not so authoritative actually to give a way forward. And I don't know myself what is the way forward. I can only, as a journalist, give you what exactly has happened on ground and what has actually happened to us, and why it needs to be, what has happened to us needs to be addressed. So I have made this presentation, actually the Jammu and Kashmir, a circle of disempowerment, a circle of how voices have been lost. So this is actually the Jammu and Kashmir. We see how much this was actually the state of Jammu and Kashmir, but we see that how much it has been divided and subdivided, and it has been taken away. So we can have another slide. Okay, we can move fast, no problem. So this is a history of disempowerment. It's not actually something new. It started from then 1586. Since then, the bearing few occasions, Kashmir has been only ruled by governors or the agents. And therefore, the region suffers a political, social, and psychological and economic disempowerment of last 4 centuries. So and this is actually the Jammu and Kashmir 2011 census, because this is the official census what we have right now. The 2021 census is yet to be held and yet to be held. So this is what the Muslims form at the 68.31%. This is the Indian part of Jammu and Kashmir I'm just referring to. The Hindus 28.43%, Sikhs 1.86. Can I have just another slide? And this is the Kashmir Valley, where you have the 96.4% Muslim populations. And this is the area which has the largest area as well, the 10 districts of 10 districts of Kashmir. I'm just referring to this census or these facts and figures because most of time I go through these English newspapers of the Pakistan and many, even the leading lights, who even the former foreign ministers, even they misrepresent these kind of facts. So you can go to other slide. So this is this is Kashmir and Jammu division. This is the Jammu division. Jammu division has the 62.55% of the Muslim, this Hindu population, and 33.45% of the Hindus. And this division, Jammu, has a three distinct regions itself. Out of them, two are the Muslim majority regions, which not many people at your side they gloss on. They don't, I think, either know it or just try to obfuscate it. We can go on another slide. And this is the Jammu area, Jammu, these districts, which is the Hindu majority district of the Jammu region. And then we can go to, there are two other regions in this Jammu, which is another slide. So this is this Pir Panchal, which has 74.52% of the Muslim population. And then go to another slide, this Chenab Valley, which has 59.97% of the Muslim population. When the people from your side try to say the Chenab formulas and other such formulas, they try to actually ignore these facts. So can go to another slide. So and Jammu region itself is not so homogeneous. If you see these kind of Muslims still comprise the largest group there, because this has if you bifurcate the Hindus, they are 20% are Dalits, 23% Brahmins, 12% are Rajputs and Dogras, 5.5% are business community or Vaishyas, and 6% are Sikhs. Can go to the other slide. And this Ladakh, which is not now, has been a separate union territory now, but there is a misconception that Ladakh is a Buddhist dominated region. I saw quite recently by one of the former foreign secretaries of the Pakistan writing in some of the articles in Dawn. This is not a Buddhist, this was never a Buddhist dominated region. It always had a Muslim majority. Muslims were quite always dominant in this region as well. So this is the official government of India census. It's not something which I have cooked. So we can go to, this is this Ladakh and Leh Kargil. So I have already mentioned it. You can go another slide. This is and we have the systematic marginalization. It is not only the question of bypassing Kashmiris in the conflict. They are being systematically disempowered. In the post-August 5, 2009, the process has only accentuated. Go through other slide. And this reduced number, you see this is the official figures of the Jammu and Kashmir Public Administration Department. You see how out of 24 secretaries right now, only 4 are Muslims. 58 top serving officers, 12 are Muslim. Actually, only 11 are serving because one of them had joined the politics and then went back, but still has not joined. And the second tier of civilian bureaucracy, you can see that what are the figures. In the police services, 66% out of the top police officers, only 7 are locals or 7 are Muslims. And in second tier of police services, the figures are before you. So we can go to another slide. Yes, this is the divisional commissioners of Kashmir and Jammu. Both of them are from outside, from outside. Yes, can go to other slide. And these deputy commissioners of Kashmir, the deputy commissioners of districts, you can see their names are before you, and of 20 districts. You can go and yes, you can put other slide. Out of these 20 districts, only 6, that is Bandipur, Badgam, Kulgam, Pulwama, Ramban, and Srinagar, are the only ones which have the local deputy commissioners. We can go to other slide. And this cultural marginalization, Urdu no more the sole official language of Jammu and Kashmir, has actually been set aside. Script of Kashmiri language now changed from Persian to Devanagari, and for this step means that past 800 years of literature written in Kashmiri language has become redundant. The works of Sheikh Nuruddin Wali, Lala Ded, Haba Khatun, Mahmud Gami, Motilal Saki, Raghunath Kastur, and so many other writers and the poets, they will become incomprehensible. And you can, yes, even to the extent that there is an attempt to change the course of Kashmiri cuisine. This, the Bollywood filmmaker Vivek Agnihotri had proposed a vegetarian Kashmiri Wazwan. It could be an innocuous statement. It should not have been taken so seriously, but taking into account food habits being imposed on people in India these days, it looks a kind of certainty that Kashmiri multi-cuisine famous dishes are under scanner. So you can go to another scheme. And this threat of another, you can go to move to others. Yes, this threat of the political disempowerment with the attempt to redistribute seats of the proposed Jammu and Kashmir Assembly now. It looks that it is aiming to reduce elected seats of the Muslim majority. Whatever the semblance, now previous assembly used to have, the semblance of that will be now robbed of this. We can go to another slide. Yes, based on the population distribution, Kashmir division had 46 seats and Jammu had 37 seats in the Jammu and Kashmir assembly, in the previous assembly, and it had 87 seats and 4 of Ladakh, which are now excluded. So can go other slide. And Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act, adopted by the Indian Parliament in August 2019, provided a new legislature with 90 seats. We can go now. And delimitation commission was set up, and this delimitation commission, it was mentioned that this Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Nagaland, and all these and Jammu and Kashmir, these states will, these assemblies segments will be redistributed. But we can go another slide. And a year later, the term of delimitation commission was extended and confined only to Jammu and Kashmir. Rest of the northeastern states were actually deleted from this order. We can another slide. The leaders of they had met Prime Minister Narendra Modi on this. All of you must have been seen this photograph of 2020. So go another slide. Yes, they had demanded the return of statehood, restoration of semblance of an autonomy, and putting a stop on demographic change in the event of abrogation of local citizenship law, restoration and election to the regional assembly, setting up of a political structure. And go to other slide. Delimitation and redrawing boundaries, it has a priority. And Amit Shah quite recently, when he visited Kashmir, and he mentioned again here that they will first delimit it, redraw the boundaries, and then they will have any semblance of any new election. You can go another slide. So BJP ex-officio member of the Delimitation Commission, in his presentation, he mentioned that not population should be made a criteria for new assembly constituencies, but the area, geography should be made so that the Jammu will have more seats. Jammu's Hindu area may have more seats. We can go to another slide. And even if by the area wise, if you go there, it is the area of Kashmir division. We can mention area of Jammu division is this much. Ladakh is not now part of this, but it had this much area. We can go another slide. So average population per assembly segment in Kashmir Valley is 149,000, and average population of the assembly segments in Jammu is 145,000. When the Muslim representation in the last assembly was 66.6%, should have been 68%. And Hindu community representation in the last assembly, which should have been 28%, was already 31%. So we can go again to this another slide. And the formula of making population as a criteria for demarcating electoral constituency is in practice all over India. You can see that Uttar Pradesh has 80 seats in the Lok Sabha, and it has lesser areas than Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh has 29 seats and has more area. Otherwise, it has more area.
Gilani,
so can go
running
another
short
slide.
of time. If you can kindly.
Yes, I'm just trying to speed up. Despite Kashmir Valley having the more population, has the same number of districts at the Jammu region. So that parity district development councils, the elections are held quite recently. So we can go another slide. And in view of the lower number of Muslims in the state bureaucracy already, now the new scheme of demarcating assembly constituencies and reserving seats will further decrease Muslims, particularly from Kashmir, in the political structures, thereby will complete their disempowerment. We can another slide. Yes, we see that this is actually what the India was intending to in India's policy on Kashmir. I have enumerated these 14 points. They are on our screen. I don't want to go each and every of them, but if in the question answer session, if you want any explanation out of them, this is I can go through. This is not something out of blue. This was exactly the National Security Advisor of India, Ajit Doval. Before this August 9, he had mentioned it in one of the meetings. Can go to another slide. Yes, on this 15th point, it was the 14th and 15th point was quite very important. That is that they had to isolate Pakistan. There was a plan to offer China a settlement of the boundary dispute using the Dai Bingo formula, to tell Chinese that the Article 370 was hindrance to settle boundary dispute, and Article 253 and 254 of Indian Constitution, giving limitless powers to the Indian government to enter into treaties with foreign governments, was not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. And also this was the curtail Pakistan's profile among OIC countries, offer Arab countries, particularly UAE and Saudi Arabia, to invest and participate in development projects in Jammu and Kashmir. They already have some projects in the Pakistani side of the state. You can go to another slide. And what has been the response? The response is, I can see, I told you that I am not in an authority to give you what is the way forward, but only just to what we have seen, like to what we're seeing, we are still actually confined and limited ourselves to the old approaches. Old approaches, they need to be reviewed. Time to rethink and innovate, bring AJK into conversation, take some clear measures to empower institutions and peoples there, because that affects affects us in the Indian Kashmir. The current electoral, administrative, political configuration is not satisfactory. AJK indigenous leadership need to adopt a proactive approach, reorient institutional responses to sync with new approach, operationalize the concept of geoeconomics, which involves reforms. And we have heard so much about geoeconomics, but we have not heard anything about what anything has been done to, or reforms have been done, or any measures have been taken. Kashmir used to be a connected link between South Asia and Central Asia till early 20th century. Project Mir Said Ali Hamadani is an icon to connect with Central Asia. Yes, we can go another slide. Yes, and you can say the genuine peace is possible only by empowering the people. This empowerment detrimental to the whole of the region. Only peace of a graveyard is possible by pushing peoples back to the wall. Pushing peoples back to the wall is a recipe for disaster. John Hume, an architect of Northern Ireland Good Friday Peace Agreement, had once said that even a small fraction of this dissatisfied population can be a
Gilani
perpetual
sir, we are running short of time. If you kindly can conclude your talk, and so that we can move on.
Yes, so therefore,
Okay.
for the sake
Gilani
of peace,
sir.
it is imperative to remove dissatisfaction and evolve people-centric approach to settle the issue of Jammu and Kashmir forever to the lasting peace of South Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gilani Saab. Sorry, we are sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, this online system always creates a fuss, and I would, without wasting time, I would invite our next speaker, Janab Rafiq Dar Saab. And Rafiq Dar Saab is the chief spokesperson of Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, an organization that had launched armed struggle in occupied Kashmir in 1989, but now supports a peaceful political solution which it believes lies in the complete independence and unification of all parts of the divided state of Jammu and Kashmir. He also works in Pakistan as special representative of Muhammad Yasin Malik, who is JKLF chairman and languishing in Delhi's infamous Tihar jail in solitary confinement for the last 3 years. Over to you, Mr. Rafiq Dar.
Thank you very much. Without any delay, I must thank organizers for organizing such a beautiful event, especially on Kashmir. And remembering Kashmir issue, I would once again thank them. And let me pay tributes to Asma Jahangir Saiba, for she was always a guest of honor for JKLF for Kashmiris, especially for she being the defender of people's rights. The topic that has been given to us, the conflict in Kashmir and bypassing Kashmiris, a very relevant topic to the Kashmiris, keeping in view the current situation in Indian-held Kashmir especially. Right from 1947, there is a long history of bypassing Kashmiris, a very long history. From changing UN title from Kashmir question to India-Pakistan relation, that was in 1947, a biggest ever kind of human rights violations and bypassing Kashmiris. Then again, the bilateral agreements between India and Pakistan, be it Tashkent, be it Simla Agreement, be it Lahore Declaration, or later the Islamabad Declaration, all these bilateral agreements between India and Pakistan once again bypassed Kashmiris. Although they talked much about Kashmir, but the presence of Kashmiri leadership, the presence of the principal party to the dispute was missing there, and that is the reason that until now bilateralism has failed, because the principal party to the dispute, that is the Kashmir, was missing there. I think one more aspect of this bypassing Kashmiris, UN missions would come to Kashmir for assessing the situation. Only after these bilateral agreements, these UN missions stopped coming to Kashmir. This is the reason that fell on Kashmiris, that it was taken as a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan, whereas it concerns the future of a nation. A nation is being bypassed. It's not just Kashmir. A nation that has a long history, a very rich history, is being bypassed. This is the very fundamental flaw that we have been looking at and witnessing to. We need to understand that Kashmir is not a territorial dispute between India and Pakistan, because it concerns the future of a nation. We as a nation, if I'm a member or spokesman of Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, but every Kashmiri that stand for total freedom, total independence, and reunification of the divided parts of the state of Jammu Kashmir, and stands for the sovereignty that was, that was snatched from us in 1947. This is the basic fundamentals for which a Kashmiri struggles for. And Kashmiri is not a terrorist. He's a freedom fighter. Be it a man, a boy, or a girl. We as a nation are struggling for our right to self-determination. That doesn't come into the form of terrorism in no way. Yes, we as JKLF adopted a very violent path in 1987-88. We resorted to guns. We resorted to violence because we felt that we are being ignored. So we resorted to guns. We wanted actually to divert the attention of the international community. We never wanted to kill the humanity. And once we achieved that goal, JKLF announced a unilateral ceasefire and tread the path of non-violence, peaceful resistance, peaceful political resistance. And Yasin Malik, the chairman of this organization, and the then supreme head, Mr. Amanullah Khan, led this organization and this movement. Coming to one important aspect, that Kashmiris are in Indian occupied Kashmir. Lots of human rights. Why should I mention every Pakistani, every Kashmiri know that what the hell has Kashmir turned into? Killings, extrajudicial killings, murders, hangings are being taking place. Makbul Butt in 1984 was hanged. Afzal Guru hanged without any reason. And very unfortunate that even the dead bodies were not given to the relatives. Coming to another part that's very important, that United Nations prohibits both India and Pakistan to go for any territorial change in the state. In the parts of the state that these two countries administer. But on 5th of August 2019, India unilaterally, through a military aggression, tried to change the status quo of the Kashmir, abrogated 370 and then 35A. That was the only link they claimed with India. And they revocated these laws. And we expected, very frankly speaking, we expected Pakistan to respond very vehemently. We expected Pakistan to go to at least listen to the similar agreement, to call off these bilateral agreements, get herself free from bilateral agreements, because once India unilaterally, in violation of the international laws, it brought Kashmir issue to 1947, August 1947. It didn't respect the bilateral agreements between India and Pakistan. Then Pakistan should have, and it's time right now as well, to rescind to Shimla Agreement, free itself from this bilateral agreements, and let a dialogue process takes place between India, Pakistan, and the principal party of the dispute, the Kashmiri representatives. This is very important, and this is the missing factor until now. I would like to recommend, since we are running out of time, I would like to come to the recommendations that is very important. I would like to suggest the government as well as the political leadership of Pakistan to show magnanimity, to exhibit magnanimity in terms of the solution of Kashmir. Don't take sides, because you're taking sides to one of the ideologies actually divides the resistance camp. This is very important for Pakistan, for Pakistan in fact, because Pakistani public, the people of Pakistan, they have an unconditional love for Kashmir and Kashmir cause. Therefore, Pakistan, keeping in view the public sentiments, must not and should not, go for one of the ideologies and living and antagonizing the other sentiments of Kashmiris. We have seen 5th of August 2019, India is on a policy of disintegration, disintegrating the state of Jammu Kashmir. And we expect Pakistan, in counter to Indian policy, Pakistan must go to integrate the state, the constituent parts of the state of Jammu Kashmir. India has bifurcated, reoccupied and bifurcated the Indian-held Kashmir. We expect Pakistan to go and integrate Gilgit-Baltistan with Azad Jammu and Kashmir and form a revolutionary government. This is very important. And the last, I know we are running out of time, but unfortunately, this is very important factor that Pakistan, to highlight the human rights violations committed by India in Indian-occupied Kashmir, must emphasize its diplomatic work, and even they must go to IJC. We have many cases like Yasin Malik, who is right now the worst victim of political vendetta. So Pakistan must, reactivate its diplomatic relations vis-a-vis Kashmir and expose Indian face at international community. I thank you.
Constraints, or else we would have loved to hear from you the recent demand by the JKLF regarding the formation of a revolutionary national government comprising Azad Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan, but sometime next. Our next panelist does not need any introduction. Madam Naseem Zahra is an author, an analyst, diplomatic and strategic affairs editor, City News Network, Associate Fellow, Harvard University Asia Center. She has been on the visiting faculty at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, Quaid-e-Azam University, NUST. She is also a former member of Foreign Ministers Advisory Group on Security and Foreign Policy, as well as a former member of National Kashmir Committee. Over to you, Ms. Zahra.
Thank you. If you allow me, I would like
To speak from the...
No, I'd like our friend to explain the Revolutionary Council. It'll take you 2 minutes. इन्हें बोल लेते हैं क्योंकि वो बड़ा important है.
Yes,
It's important. बोल दें.
You know, we know, as I made my point, that India is following the policy of disintegration of the parts of the state of Jammu Kashmir. They have bifurcated Ladakh from Jammu Kashmir. And when it comes to Pakistan, if Pakistan annexes Gilgit-Baltistan with Pakistan, so as a Kashmiri, I would see the same thing happening from both sides. So in order to counter the Indian policy and restore and maintain the moral high ground that Pakistan has been keeping right now, Pakistan should integrate Gilgit-Baltistan with Azad Kashmir. It can be as a one unit. It can be even, Gilgit-Baltistan can be given a similar setup as in AJK. Then there must be a joint independence council based comprising upon the nominees from both the governments that would basically display the oneness of the state, and then that government, that council should be empowered to take up their case at international level as a Kashmiri face. This is, I wanted to make the point. Thank you.
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीबॉडी। और सबसे पहले आसमा जहांगीर के लिए मेरा ख्याल 1 मिनट का साइलेंस। शी ट्रूली वाज एन आइकॉन। आई वुड लाइक एवरीबॉडी टू ऑब्जर्व 1 मिनट साइलेंस फॉर हर। जी, thank you. So obviously, Abhi, I was just telling my colleagues here that Asma Jahangir, during her last days, especially one of the issues that she did focus on and focused on very clearly and very succinctly was what Modi was doing to the Kashmiris. And certainly at this conference, जो एक सबसे अहम इशू हमें नज़र आता है, ह्यूमन राइट्स कॉन्फ्रेंस है ये, तो ह्यूमन राइट्स इस वक्त जो कश्मीरियों के साथ हो रहा है उससे बढ़ के आई वुड आर्ग्यू दैट इन द इंटायर वर्ल्ड, पूरी दुनिया में कहीं ऐसे नहीं हो रही ज़्यादती और जुल्म जो कि कश्मीरियों के साथ हो रहा है इन इंडियन ऑक्यूपाइड कश्मीर। इससे पहले आई मूव टू दैट टू द इशू स्पेसिफिकली, I just want to make a quick comment. अभी आप फरमा रहे थे भाई, you were saying that ये डार साहब आप क्या कह रहे थे? जी, डार साहब आप कह रहे थे कि Pakistan is integrating Gilgit-Baltistan. I don't think that's anywhere on the cards at all. And I think Pakistan has, in the last few...
74 and the Karachi Pact.
When, sorry?
Karachi Pact is the biggest example of it.
We'll take your question later. Please.
No, we'll come to that, but I think that Pakistan has done, I would certainly say, has done the maximum it could have. There are no, आप smile कर रहे हैं, how serious are you? आपने जोक तो बेटा नहीं क्रैक किया, आपने कोई सीरियस बात की, उसके बाद आप हंस रहे हैं। बात ये है कि ये बड़ा संजीदा मामला है। कश्मीर का मामला उन लोगों की नज़र से देखें जो इस वक्त मकबूल कश्मीर, आप कश्मीरी, बट आप यहाँ बैठ के आपके एटीट्यूड से, द गिगलिंग एंड स्माइलिंग डजंट टेल मी दैट यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड द पेन एंड द इंजरी एंड द टॉर्चर दैट कश्मीरीज आर गोइंग थ्रू। अगर आपको समझ आए तो मुस्कुराहट भी बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है, आपको मैं ये बताऊं। तो इस वक्त जो हम सिचुएशन है, देखिए कश्मीरी स्ट्रगल जो है, इट इज़ इन द 3rd सेंचुरी। याद रखिए जो अमृतसर ट्रीटी है, जबकि बेच दिया था महाराजा को अंग्रेज़ों ने जम्मू और कश्मीर, ये स्ट्रगल उतनी पुरानी है। और नो मैटर व्हाट हैज़ हैपेंड, किस स्टेट ने, किस गवर्नमेंट ने क्या पोजीशन ली है, कश्मीरी अटल रहे अपनी पोजीशन पे. मैसेकर जो जम्मू का हुआ, हॉलोकॉस्ट के बाद एक इतना मैसेकर जो जुलाई 47 में, इवन बिफोर पाकिस्तान वाज क्रिएटेड, 2.5 लाख कश्मीरी वर मैसेकर्ड इन जम्मू एंड सो ऑन सो फोर्थ. और स्ट्रगल आप लोगों की जो कश्मीरियों की रही है वो बड़ी इट इज़ वन दैट इज़ बीन अंडरस्टेटेड, हैज़ नॉट बीन सफिशेंटली टॉक्ड अबाउट. लेकिन अब जो ख़तरा है, अगर हम बात आगे की करें, एक तो ये मुझे कहने दें कि जहाँ तक पाकिस्तान का ताल्लुक़ है 2019 के बाद, और उससे पहले भी पाकिस्तान ने जब 4 पॉइंट्स की बात की, उससे पहले जब नवाज शरीफ साहब ने, सरताज अजीज़ और जसवंत सिंह साहब बात करने शुरू हुए ऑन कश्मीर, तो ये कश्मीरीज वर ऑलवेज टेकन इनटू कॉन्फिडेंस. 4 पॉइंट्स पे आपको ये मालूम है कि 10 दिन, ये यासीन मलिक साहब भी आए थे यहाँ, 10 दिन पाकिस्तान आके कश्मीरी रहे थे और इन्होंने बातचीत की थी. चाहे यासीन मलिक साहब थे, चाहे शब्बीर शाह साहब थे, चाहे भट्ट साहब थे, ये दे ऑल केम. और फिर टू द एक्सटेंट कि इवन उमर अब्दुल्ला के साथ मैनचेस्टर में सरप्टिशियसली पाकिस्तान गवर्नमेंट की मीटिंग हुई थी. तो पाकिस्तानीज अंडरस्टैंड, देखिए ऑब्वियसली कश्मीर, इट इज़ अबाउट द कश्मीरीज, सो सवाल ही नहीं विदाउट द कश्मीरीज. पाकिस्तान एंड इंडिया वर मेंट टू फैसिलिटेट बेस्ड ऑन द कमिटमेंट एट द UN सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल. एंड दोज हु आर, जिसके लिए ये सब हो रहा है, जिनके लिए ये सब हो रहा है, वो तो कश्मीरी हैं. लेकिन आज जिस कश्मीरियों को है, दैट हैज़ नेवर एवर बीन द केस. ये इफ्तिखार गिलानी साहब जो उनकी प्रेजेंटेशन थी, इट वाज अ वेरी वेरी क्रिटिकल प्रेजेंटेशन, जिसमें कि वो ये बता रहे थे ये बड़ी क्लियरली कि जिस तरीके से इस वक्त जम्मू और कश्मीर में कलोनियल सेटलर मॉडल जो है, चाहे कश्मीर की मकबूजा कश्मीर की ब्यूरोक्रेसी है, चाहे पुलिस है, चाहे जुडिशरी है, चाहे लोकल लोग हैं जो वहाँ के रहने वाले लोग हैं, सब के सब एवरीवेयर the Indian government is trying to reduce them to a minority. ये जो delimitations की बात है, delimitations is very very serious. Delimitations, और अभी अमित शाह जो कह रहे थे पिछले हफ्ते कि जी elections, delimitation के बाद we'll hold the elections and statehood status will be restored. What it means is कि statehood का status store होगा with majority non-Kashmiri, non-Muslims sitting in the assembly, with the result that what BJP has done in Delhi के status ख़त्म कर दिया. तो कश्मीर का बिल्कुल एक जिस तरह का चैलेंज कश्मीर को इस वक्त है, जिस तरह का सामना, वो मेरा ख्याल है कि 300 तारीख में नहीं हुआ. So the question is what is to be done. I mean Pakistan has taken steps to the extent that downgraded relationship, $1 billion की ट्रेड आपने ख़त्म कर दी, आपने इंटरैक्शन लिमिट कर दिया. बैक चैनल पे जब बात होती है तो ये होती है कि कश्मीरी राइट्स, बट क्लियरली दैट्स नॉट इनफ. और ये भी हमें मालूम है कि एवरी वीक द फॉरेन मिनिस्टर सेंड्स लेटर्स टू द UN सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल एंड टू UN सेक्रेटरी जनरल कंप्लेनिंग about what is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir. Indian occupied Kashmir में क्या हो रहा है वो आपको ज़्यादा आप लोग खुद जानते हैं. I can only tell you that I keep talking to a lot of Kashmiris. सिग्नल की वजह से अब वो बात कर लेते हैं, उनको कम डर लगता है. WhatsApp far more exposed. So they are very clear कि we will continue this battle, we will continue the battle on our own terms. वो लोग जो कि militancy की बात नहीं करते, वो कह रहे हैं कि मिलिटेंसी इज़ दी ओनली आंसर. पूंछ राजौरी में आपको मालूम है जो सीज हुआ पिछले 3 हफ्ते, जिसमें दे किल्ड इंडियन कमांडो. सो द पॉइंट इज़ दैट right now indeed the international community does not have time or attention or interest or focus on Kashmir, but at the same time Pakistan needs to be far more active. सब speakers कह चुके हैं, चाहे ICJ है, चाहे UN Human Rights Council है, और मुख्तलिफ फोर्थ जो कन्वेंशन है, जिनीवा कन्वेंशन, बहुत सी चीज़ें जिनके तहत, फॉर एग्जांपल दिस वन कन्वेंशन, इंटरनेशनल कन्वेंशन under which you cannot change the status of a contested, disputed, occupied territory, which is exactly what India is doing. So we have to ask ourselves in Pakistan, are we doing enough? Why are we not doing enough? One of the things is that I think Pakistan में India policy पे clarity नहीं है. Because India policy पे clarity नहीं है, therefore on the Kashmir issue, while when you talk to people, you can see that they have they have enough of they have an understanding on what can be done, but I think decision making here is weak because the policy on India is weak. But just to conclude, I don't want to be pessimistic, while one is very optimistic कि जो कश्मीरियों की struggle अभी तक जितनी उनमें जान है वो आफरीन है उस पर, लेकिन Pakistan needs to move much faster. Otherwise, I think it's a question of months, not years. It's a question of months that Modi will have his way, and then it will be a very difficult situation for the Kashmiris, even worse than it is now. Thank you.
Apologies for the time constraints. Now we invite our keynote speaker she will be speaking online, Dr. Atar Zia. She's a political anthropologist, poet, short fiction writer and columnist, an associate professor in the Department of Anthropology and Gender Studies program at the University of Northern Colorado, Greeley. Ms. Atar is also author of many books, some of which are award-winning. She has also published a poetry collection, The Frame, in 1999. Founder editor of Kashmir Lit and is the co-founder of Critical Kashmir Studies Collective, an interdisciplinary network of scholars working on the Kashmir region. Please welcome her with a big round of applause. Ms. Zia, we are running out of time, so you have just 5 minutes to wrap up your talk. Thank you. Over to Ms. Zia.
माजरत चाहती हूँ, मुझे अगला सेशन मॉडरेट करना है, तो इसलिए मुझे जाना होगा. ये टाइमिंग अब ऐसी है, मैं क्या करूँ. मुझे मैसेजेस आ रहे हैं कि आप आए मॉडरेट करने, तो ये मैनेजमेंट जो ऑर्गेनाइजर्स हैं, दे आर द बॉसेस, सो आई मस्ट गो. थैंक यू.
थैंक यू सो वेरी मच.
थैंक यू. नॉट एट ऑल. थैंक यू.
आप जैसे के सवाल बकाया रहे.
जी आप जवाब दे दें. आई विल आंसर. आप सब दे दें.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, Dr. Zia, you can carry on. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. मैं तो कुछ देख नहीं सकती. Everything is kind of gone, and I wasn't able to hear Ms. Zehra at all. So and some of Mr. Dar's speech as well. So I don't know what I'll be responding to or not. But thank you so much for inviting me. And at the outset, salam to you all, and also praying my tributes to the memory of Ms. Jahangir. A lot has been said here already, and I believe I have 5 minutes. Is that the time that is assigned to me?
You have just 5 minutes. I'm sorry, because of the
Thank
time
you. No
constraints.
worries. So I think a lot has already been said, and I could just add a few bits that I feel in my last 20 years of actively working to excavate the Kashmiri narrative. I just want to give a little bit of that vantage. I do want to kind of like begin by saying that we do have to take a hard, reflective look on what has been done, especially with regards to what has happened after 1947. Mr. Gilani already gave us a good lay of the land by saying that the resistance of Kashmiris is not something new, and they have lived under so many occupations. And then also thinking about Mr. Dar's comment about how did the Kashmir question become a India-Pakistan question, which kind of makes it into a completely bilateral dispute. And also this fact that when Kashmir situation is presented anywhere and everywhere, so to speak, there is this violence of language that happens, the violence of vocabularies that happens. I mean, from the Indian side, it's been a consistent policy to use words, to deploy words to implode Kashmiri resistance, whether that be the grassroots resistance or the one that is supported by Pakistan. This one word that kind of like dogs Kashmir situation is the idea of intractability, that this is an intractable situation, that nothing can happen, or everything can happen, of course, but at the same time, there's no possibility for Kashmir, especially after 2019, where on one side Kashmiris thought that all the constitutional relationship, that was a forced relationship between Kashmir and which was also known as a Jabri Ilhaq. So that had gone away. Now this is going to be a constitutional nightmare for India. And Kashmiris had lots of hope that something is going to emerge out of it. So that's one side of it. But on the other side, there was because they deoperationalized Article 370, they did not abrogate it, they deoperationalized it. As a result, what happens is that it stays in their constitution, but it's just nullified in a sense. And that kind of took it to a different stance altogether. And now what has happened is that Kashmir is being splintered, and as Mr. Gilani already gave us a fair idea of what's happening, now it kind of, for a lot of people, it seems more intractable because they are splintering it. But the fact is that, we can at this moment pierce through this sanctioned ignorance that has been imposed on Kashmir. And sanctioned ignorance is not my term. It's an academic term proffered by a post-colonial Indian scholar, Gayatri Spivak, where she actually talks about the First Nations imposing. She actually talks about Western nations and Western Eurocentric academic ideology imposing on the First Nations here, and also academics of brown and black dispensations and, from those ethnicities. So I think the same sanctioned ignorance, the same kind of sanctioned ignorance has been imposed on Kashmir and Kashmiris. That, first and foremost, that Kashmiris have been, the obfuscation around Kashmir is kind of the biggest thing at this moment. When I look at from an international vantage, it's very, very easy for the international community to accept that Kashmir is a terrorism problem. And now that needs to be reflected upon. How is it possible that a genuine resistance of people that is older than the two nations suddenly in the last 30 years has become very easy to digest as terrorism? And that's something that we as critical Kashmir studies scholars in the last 15, 20 years are actively dealing with. And I think that requires us all to go back to the Kashmiri history rather than the history of two nations only. And I think that's something that kind of lends to the intractability of Kashmir and kind of making it seem like as if there is no solution to it. And then the fact, when we think about Shimla Agreement, again, that needs a very reflective, critical look. What do Kashmiris think about it? Again, that solidified from the Kashmir question becoming India-Pakistan question. Shimla Agreement kind of solidifies the bilaterality of the dispute. And when that happens, you also have ceasefire line changing into line of control. And now from line of control, you have India taking it further to making it into an internal dispute. Now there's, it's a biggest violence that a language can deploy on people when you think about Kashmir and the two Kashmirs on two sides, and you think that there is the way India portrays is that as if there's a border running in between. And so that's these are all the questions. I know I don't have much time, but these are questions that need a hard reflective look. And also from a Kashmiri perspective, because they are stakeholders, and saying this, that Kashmiris do have an affective relationship with Pakistan. And we critical Kashmir scholars, we have in our work tried to excavate that relationship, not with what became Pakistan after 1947, but what the geographical area, the cultural, religious, economic ties
Dr.
that have
Zia,
existed.
your time is almost up. I'm sorry to say, your time is almost up. If you can just wrap up in next 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. So you kind of like have to pay attention to all the work that has been done by Kashmiris in trying to recapitulate and recapture their relationship, what is now Pakistan, and trying to sort of like solidify their stance and not have their resistance criminalized to this extent. Thank you so much. I think in the Q&A we can talk more about what looks like a way forward.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Zia. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for our patient hearing. We can just take two questions because JKLF, if there is any, if JKLF chief spokesperson is here, if anybody has a question, we can answer that. If not, then I thank you again, and I present the reportage of the conference. A brief. Ms. Naila Altafkiani said that Kashmir and Afghanistan are two different issues and should not be intermingled. She emphasized that terminologies play an important role in a struggle, so we should be very careful in use of terminologies while presenting our case. He said, keeping in view the magnitude and intensity of the atrocities being committed by India, we should not use the term human rights violations. Instead, they should always be referred as war crimes, and they must be pursued under universal jurisdiction of International Criminal Court of War Crime Tribunals. Kashmiris were bypassed not only, she has also said, Kashmiris were not bypassed not only by the external actors, but also by local leaders when they gradually replaced the name Azad government of the state of Jammu and Kashmir by government of Azad Jammu and Kashmir. Mr. Gilani emphasized that Kashmiris are being systematically disempowered. He said old approaches need to be reviewed. Azad Jammu and Kashmir should be brought into the conversation because it is time to empower and strengthen institutions and people in AJK. This is a common demand from all and sundry whoever wants to see Kashmir issue to be taken to its logical conclusion. Rafiq Dar Sahib has said that bilateralism has dented Kashmir issue. Every Kashmiri stands for total freedom, independence, and sovereignty of the state that was snatched from them in 1947. The important point of the talk was that the Pakistan should form a national revolutionary government comprising Azad Jammu Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan and let it take the case of Kashmir to the international community. And if that is not possible, he suggested, his party has suggested that a joint independent council of the nominees of two governments, GB should be given same AJK-like status, and the nominees from both governments should form a joint independent council which should take the Kashmir issue to the outside world. Ms. Zaira said Pakistan lacks clarity on India policy and subsequently decision making is weak. She said Pakistan is doing a lot, but that's not sufficient. It needs to move much faster. Otherwise, it's a matter of months. The current Indian dispensation led by Narendra Modi and Amit Shah will leave nothing for Pakistan. Ms. Zia said that Kashmir issue is getting re-internationalized after India militarily and forcibly stripped the region of its autonomy in 2019. She used the concept of sanctioned ignorance to trace how the Kashmir issue and the demands of Kashmiris have been overwritten, invalidated, and criminalized by India. The analysis contends that the Indian discourse obfuscated the Kashmir issue, which led to the waning of international attention and solidarity for the Kashmiris. She said that forging a global solidarity for Kashmir will entail understanding the issue in its original historical context and reinstate it as a genuine people's resistance. Okay. That's all from this session. I thank you again for giving us a patient hearing, and my apologies for mismanagement because of some technical issues which was beyond our control. And thank you very much. Have a nice evening.